Yes.
Okay, cool.
Showing comments on the stage automatically.
And then you said that the links. Where did you say the links are? How do you find the links?
You kind of have to have them before you get into the
God
studio.
damn it. Jesus. You and LinkedIn nerds.
um,
Okay, hold on. I got it.
if you go to your LinkedIn profile, you'll just see it there. There's a
Yeah.
post there.
Oh, I love your illustrations. You're
Yeah, they're
so much
silly,
more on
right?
top of everything than me.
You
Do you want to
agree?
do my taxes also
I
and
can.
pay all my bills?
Doing my own taxes these days.
Oh my
Not
God.
paying anyone for that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get rid of this phone.
Oh, good for you because you have a W-2. So,
Well, I have both. I
oh,
have
okay.
1099 income too.
Oh my God. Mine's a
I've got
mess
a
because
little
I
bit of
have
everything.
3 LLCs and it's just. Ugh. Well,
All
anyway,
right.
that's not what we're talking about. Hi, everyone. Oh,
George,
hi,
what's
George.
up, man? All right, so
George,
we
George,
are.
George just finished his degree.
Oh,
Congratulations, George. He graduated from
shout
university.
out to George.
Amazing. And he's still here with us, bubbling, which
Right on.
I don't know what you do with a philosophy and political science degree or whatever, whatever you got, but
Bubble, obviously.
yeah, I know.
Technical work.
Uh-huh. Okay, so let's recap what we kind of talked about last week. We're talking about what makes a senior dev. We kind of have two things here. What are the characteristics of a senior developer? But also like how do you become one? What's important as you're becoming one? So you
Exactly.
want to
Can you see this a little better this time,
That's
Kelly?
better. Yeah,
All
go
right.
one more in.
One more.
Yeah. There we go.
All right.
Cool.
All right. So yes, like Kelly said, trying to figure out first off define what this is, what senior dev is. I've talked to a lot of people about this and like people who are in traditional dev environments on traditional dev teams, and they say it varies by company too. Like companies define what senior means to them in their context. So there's no like universal standard for what a senior developer is. And we're talking about that, Kelly. And the more interesting part of it is how do you get there?
Yep.
How do you become? So this is where we kind of left off last week. What we think is really important. Like we think that communication is a big indicator of when someone transitions from a junior, I guess you could compare it to a senior, like their communication style and what they
Mhm.
like, how much time I think they spend on communications and not just like
Yeah.
hands-on development work. And that's not to say like the hands-on stuff isn't important. Like that's the baseline though. Like that's where you start. You have to have that. So this framing this conversation around like we're talking about senior stuff. Like what is it that a senior does differently than a entry level or junior dev?
Yeah, I think that like communication is one of those things that like you have to have it, like you have to be really good at that to be a senior developer, I think. But I think if you're trying to become a senior developer, you have to like if you're not already a good communicator, you have to put effort into that. You need to and
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. I don't know if it's courses or if it's, coaching or if it's just practice or observation, how do people respond to you? It's just something that you have to put effort into, whatever that looks like. And it would be an interesting conversation to figure out. I mean, and there's multiple types of communication, right? There's like project planning and communicating that to the client. But then there's also like if you're trying to have clients across borders, how do they communicate culturally and language wise versus how you naturally communicate your language and your culture. And so like do you make efforts to kind of match theirs if that's the client you want? That I think that's what I'm thinking about here when I say communication is like what are the efforts you're putting in to be the communicator that's necessary for the clients and the types of projects that you want.
Easily the most overlooked
Mm-hmm.
skill to develop in this area. I,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone puts like a clear emphasis on this. Like you go to a course, I've never seen a course like, hey, technical communications. I've never seen that advertised anywhere. It probably exists, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not at the forefront of everybody's mind when they're doing this stuff. Everyone's focused on the technical parts of
Yeah.
things. Whereas like I think the thing that like I've learned in doing this for a while is that like the technical work becomes so much easier if you understand what you're building and you know how to interact with whoever it is that is helping you build this project out. I think the tendency for a developer, for a super technical person, is just to go into a silo, go into a room, lock themselves in, and come up with something. And it may be great, but it's like a crapshoot. Like, how do you know what you're building at that point? So
yeah, and I think if this ties into peer-to-peer exposure, is like if you work on your own, which most of us do, you probably don't have exposure to other developers communicating in a way that's really effective. So you're just making shit up, right? You're just like, I guess this is how you kick off a project or collect, like scope a project, which is fully just communication. That's what, to me, what scoping is. Like 99% of it is communication. So like if you've never seen someone do it well, you probably don't even know that it's a thing you should spend time on. And, you don't have anyone to teach you.
I have a question on that for you. Like, how much of your time, like you're fully freelancing, how much of your time do you spend developing hands-on dev work over like setting client expectations, intaking specs, telling them what you're doing, all of that stuff that falls under communication? What would you say?
Like I have processes that I've set up because I've been freelancing for 15 years, not even just Bubble. So like at this point, it's sort of, I have the processes kind of already set up, which that's a part of this. Like I communicate through systems. So like I have a document that I'll share in a future call. I don't have one that I could share right now, but it's like the home. I think I showed it at the retreat. It's like a home base for my clients. And that's the only place they go for communication. So there's not all the like Slack and email and, call. We never do calls. I mean, not never, but like rarely do calls because like every couple days I'm communicating what I've done, what I'm about to do, any questions and problems. Like those are kind of the three things, right? And so I have like a system for that. It's not guessing every time. And the setting expectations at the beginning, that's a really good question. We should definitely do like several conversations about that, because like I think that's like the hardest thing, because how do you anticipate? This goes into doing more projects. Is like the more projects you do, the more you understand what you should be telling them up front. What are the sort of pitfalls of the process, so yeah, I think that like I do a lot of communicating, but it's easy for me now. I don't spend a ton of time on it because I have built these systems and processes, and like I have a list of things that I tell clients before we start, depending on the kind of project, right? Like for example, like I'll just use coaching calls for an example. Like the first coaching call I get on with a client, I'm like, we're probably not going to solve your problem in 1 hour. Sometimes there's underlying stuff. Like we're not going to build your app in 1 hour. This is a long process. So like, I just want to like set expectations for you. And this is how I typically go about it. There are, 3 ways that I can handle this call the next 30 minutes. Which one works for you? And what do you want to accomplish? Right. So like I have kind of a list of things. Now it's a mental list. I just remember to do it. But in the beginning, I had to develop that list, and I had it written out. I have my 3 things, and I would just boop, boop, boop each call. So I think like I don't know, everything I just said.
Rarely calls is the way, is something interesting that George points out here. So like, I guess this also depends on your communication style. If you prefer doing this over like a video call or a Loom or something like that, I think that's how I would prefer to do it, because I don't know how else to, like, I need to ask 1,000 questions. And if you're going back and forth on Loom, that's just going to take forever. So I prefer calls, but I'm curious about how George prefers to get this kind of information. Whereas like Kelly, it sounds like you have a more systematic approach to intaking that stuff.
Well,
I like questions.
The intaking. So in the beginning of a project, there are calls. There's like a few calls usually. It depends on the project again and the scope of it. But I like ongoing, like client updates. I'm never getting on a call for that. That's such a waste of time.
That's a Loom. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Loom and like a bulleted list. It's also brevity is a really important thing here. You can't write paragraph. No one's going to read it, right? I'm always amazed at these long scoping documents that like, you need to approve this. I'm like,
who's reading that?
Who's reading it?
I'm not going to read that. Who the hell is going to read that?
And how do they know what they're looking at? It's like takes up. Yeah. So, I mean, not to say that like you don't have any written scope, but by any means, I'm not saying that, but it's like for me, a very important part of communication is brevity and just super clarity. I'm not going to try to be funny. I'm not like explaining everything. And I learned that early in my career. I sent this big long email to our staff at this job I had. And my colleague, Jeff, he came to me and he was like, I'm never reading that fucking email, Kelly. That email was ridiculous. That is a huge waste of my time. Sum it up, bullet points, baby. And I was like, oh, right. He was like, you keep sending these and I ignore them every time, just FYI. So
That's like some of the best feedback you can
ah,
get when someone's real like that. That is some of the best feedback that you can get. Like, okay, I never have to do this shit again.
yeah.
It's so long and it takes me forever, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have to do it anymore. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. So I think George is right though. Less room for misinterpretation in writing. Like very, very, very valuable to like that's why I use Coda for my communications because you can link Coda is like Notion and you can link to other things that you've talked about. So there's never any question like what did we talk about in our last call? All the notes are there if we had a call. I know I'm not showing this, so it's probably useless to even talk about it. But the point is like having stuff in writing, I think is very, 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 very important. Even if it's a document you know that they're not going to read, the fact that they signed off on it it's like a contract, right? Like you signed this thing. You said this is, you know, I communicated this and you received it, I think is really important. But sometimes writing doesn't cover all of it. Like you can't cover all of it. Sometimes it isn't we were in the general chat in the WhatsApp group. We were talking about scoping yesterday, or some people were going back and forth on it. And someone, I think it was Reese, was talking about doing a questionnaire for scoping. They have them fill out a questionnaire and then they put it through a custom GPT and that creates user stories. It was a really interesting strategy. I would like to see how that works. But for me, the gap in that is the questions. Like, I don't know what's on the survey, the client questionnaire, but in my mind, I'm like, it just can't be enough. It can't be, and it can't like the first round of questions in scoping, and we're not talking about scoping, but the first round of questions is the first round. Then there's the second round. And to clarify and to dig into like, well, what about this? And have you thought about this? And what if this happens? But who gets to see this? And that's to me is like, I mean, goes in with communication. It's not just like they tell you something and you go, okay. It's like,
Exactly.
it's digging in and really like clarifying, layers. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there is less room for misinterpretation. The problem is exactly what you said, though. It's like how are they going to read this, and how thoroughly are they going to read what they're signing off on? Because whatever, like contractually, you might be covered, but if they misinterpreted or didn't read what you said and then signed off on it, you're building the wrong thing. So what good does that do anybody? Like, all right,
Exactly.
I was right to the letter of the contract. Who cares?
Yeah.
So I think that there is a time and place for both, of course. It's not like you can do one or the other. You have to do both. But like, I don't see how you get a deep understanding until you've had multiple conversations and have been able to ask multiple questions.
Yeah.
All right. So well, let's see what's up, Louise. LinkedIn user, my experience working with other developers, having a Trello-like task manager with assignees and task managers is a must-have. I've tried Trello. It gets disorganized really quickly. I don't know. It seems like if the project is, you can use Trello, but I feel like that's a very, what am I thinking? I guess it's good for customer-facing stuff. It's easy for a customer to use and kind of communicate to you what's needed there. I've used it and it's worked, and I've used it and it's not worked too.
I have lots of thoughts on this, but let's do a talk about project management, like in the future.
Okay. Yeah.
And let's put George's
Absolutely.
comment up because he says he agrees with me.
Do it.
Questions are important because they give you context. You need to know more than what you're agreeing to do now. You need to know more than what you're agreeing to do now. You need to know the future business problems and plans. Yeah. Okay. So this is something I think is a really, really important point that George is making is the business problems that they're solving and the business problems, like how are they going to monetize this? Who is responsible for the tech going forward, after the build? like there's so many questions that I'm like that inform the way that I'm going to build something, or the questions that I ask, or the order that we do things. And so those types of conversations that you have with clients, not just what do you want me to build, but all of that other stuff surrounding the app itself. The app is like one part of a business. Everything else, is it affects it, right? And so if you don't have the experience, or at least haven't really like thought about or looked into the other aspects of a business, if you're just thinking about the building, you're not going to build, probably you're not going to build a project, a product that they can maintain, or that actually, like, for example, I find that when a client hires me, they never think to tell me how they're going to monetize it. They assume that I know that I'm going to have to integrate Stripe and whatever, whatever. So I'm going to ask that question, because then it adds to the scope, and it tells
Yeah.
me like what their plan is for this. And often that one question, how are you planning to monetize this app? That changes so much of like how you're going to structure things. I can't even give you an example of that right now, but like just the fact that you have to integrate Stripe, I'm like, well, that's going to add time to the project. Fine. Of course, we should do that. Or like if you're like, okay, we'll integrate Stripe, but their customers are in India. Well, you can't really use Stripe for that. You have to find some other solution. So like, yeah, you have to dig in, I think is the point.
I know
And
we're
sorry,
Go ahead.
what I was going to say is like that's a part of also exposure to business processes and business stuff that you get either through more projects or through mentorship. Like it's a piece of that, right?
I feel like there is another title for this. It's like understanding the business context that I
Yeah.
haven't created yet. Like that is
Hmm.
a very senior thing to know is important. So you hit on something really important in what you were just saying. It's like, if we're tying this back to what is a senior versus a entry level approach, it's like, oh, I can build that. Like an entry level developer will say, I can build that. Like I can do that. Like what
Yeah.
they're telling me to do. Oh, I should take this project. Whereas, this the more senior thing to do is like, oh no, this is the beginning. Like we have a lot more to learn here.
Yeah.
And like that, I think that's at the crux of what you were just saying. So we're definitely deep diving on communication, this one talent, but I think that's important because like we just uncovered like another one, like taking business context seriously should be another thing here.
Hmm.
Or is it business? Yeah, it's business context.
Yeah. And I don't know how you do
All right.
that without working on, you know, in those contexts. I don't know. I don't think there's a course for that, but maybe I'm wrong. I would take it. There's a course. Someone tell me. I'll take it.
I think that a lot of this stuff there is no course for. So let's talk about courses, right?
Hmm.
I kind of like threw that in at the end last time, and kind of I hate coursework and I hate like structured learning. So I selfishly put this in the overrated section here. I know, Kelly, that you said that you'll go through a course 3 times to get an understanding of it, and like I'm sure there's a lot of people that learn that way. So I'm curious about like other people, like what other people feel, in the chat.
Yeah.
Like, what do you feel about coursework as a vehicle for becoming a senior developer? Not just courses. Like, yeah, of course, you're going to need to take some courses. Like, everyone's going to have to do it at some point in areas that you don't come intuitively to you. But like, how important is it in becoming a senior developer?
Yeah. I'm really
Um,
curious. I don't know anything about how Luis or George, who are in the chat right now, like learn Bubble.
yeah, how did you learn? All right,
Mhm.
Kelly, I'm gonna make a tile for that one that we just talked about if I can
Okay.
do this without Xing everything out. So if you want to take on
Yeah, Luis, this
Luis's
is a really good point.
comments
Words
here.
and images reduce misinterpretation, plus the video script. Yeah, true. The fact that like now there's a transcript for everything and an AI summary and whatever, like you can, the video and Zoom and Loom and all of that is written effectively. But I mean, have I ever read the transcript of a video? No, I haven't, but it is there, but I think Luis is right that like show don't tell kind of thing that goes, it's like having like now, you can whip up a prototype for their idea very, very quickly with AI. That's not something that I do or have done, but we've been talking about it in our Thursday group that, you can show them like, is this what you mean? Which is what I've done in Figma for my whole career, but that takes hours and hours to like do the design first and go, hey, this is what, we talked about what I'm understanding here. Is this what you are thinking? And they say yes or no, or, yes, but, and so I think having something visual is like a really important thing.
Though I do
Ranjit.
like the ingenuity there. Like you can copy the transcript from the conversation, paste that into Windsurf, and just make an app and send it back to them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, huh? You can do that now. I mean, I think we should talk about using AI for that type of thing, because for me, I feel like there's space that you need to take on an idea when you're mocking something up or when you're thinking through like how to prototype something or whatever. And AI, there's no space. It's like 30 seconds and there's your thing, or, a couple minutes,
Yeah.
maybe if they're like producing code. And so, I think that relieves some of the kind of thinking that is a huge part of our job, and just like offloads that to AI, which I think is a really not necessarily. I mean, I do think it's dangerous, but for the purposes of our career, I think it devalues what we do a lot, and also might give you a lesser product in the end. Ranjit, always a truth teller. Learn by doing. Ranjit,
There you go. Ranjit agrees with me.
yeah. Okay. I mean, to be clear, like I haven't done a course. I did 2 courses this week, but they weren't technical courses. They were like marketing things. But I mean, yeah, like I think that they're useful, especially in the beginning. I don't know.
Not
I'm
the most clever, the most basic tile here, but
gorgeous.
yeah,
Gorgeous.
this is what ChatGPT came up with. Business context. Where we'll come back to courses in a sec, Kelly, but where do we think
For
business
senior
context?
dev, that
Yes,
feels so well, okay, so if it's picking up business context, I think it's
like
at least important. At least important.
at least important, as important as peer-to-peer exposure, or
Yes,
less
it feels
important?
like kind of almost in the same vein to me, because it's like seeing how things are done, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's at least important.
at least important. I'd probably make an argument for super important, but we'll
I think I'm putting
like
everything super important, but I was going to say
I
super
know.
important. So
I don't want to put everything on the top either. So, man, but I almost feel like understanding this is more important than mentorship. I almost feel
mm,
like
mm,
I would move mentorship down here, like into the important parts, and like the communication, understanding the business. I should have put understanding in here. Understanding the business context. That to me, like
mhm.
defines senior developer. This is the
Yeah.
definition of senior developer to me. Whereas this stuff is like it helps you in getting there. Like
Hmm.
I know we're trying to have like a two-sided conversation about this,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
these two things feel less important. Like if someone does these two things well, I'm gonna call them senior. Whereas this is more like
Yeah, I guess
how
okay,
you
so
got
like
there.
being on this table right here, it is important. Like it's you I think even courses and well, I don't know. Maybe if you're above helpful, then it means like you should do these things. You should spend energy trying to get some mentorships and peer-to-peer exposure or whatever. Doesn't if it's not at the very top, it like in my mind I've been thinking super important means yeah, you need this, and everything else has been like, yeah, if you want to. I think you need all of this stuff. Maybe not
Yeah,
courses, but I don't know, in the beginning, I think you need courses.
you do. I think you do. I don't think any of this stuff you can just completely
Yeah.
disregard. All this stuff you need. It's
Hmm.
just like where does it fit on the stack of definition and getting to see definition of senior and getting to senior.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're laying out here.
Yeah.
And now this is a new one, our little AI bot. Um,
It's just AI.
there's a it's just AI in general. Like, how helpful is AI in getting you to a senior level developer? Um,
I don't know. I mean,
Kinda.
as someone who's
If
like
you
about AI at this point, still a little bit, I'm good. I would put it as helpful. I think it
helpful.
will be crucial, but I don't think it's there yet. Like if we're using AI to become a senior developer, I mean, my God, you can pick up like business context stuff and like help it. It can coach you on communicate. You can use it for all of those things, but I don't think you need to. I don't think it's like critical that you use AI for those things. You can get it. People have been doing that for you know hundreds of years without AI, right?
I think the biggest impact that it has on this space is it's kind of like it has the potential to change the definition of what senior means.
Mm.
Like will it help you become it? I don't know. Like what does senior look like now that AI is lowering the barriers to entry for developers?
Mhm.
Senior may mean something different in 5 years. Uh,
Well, I think I mean, like if you're using AI to skip the line and not have to learn the basics, then I think in the end it's going to dumb down our profession. And like, yeah, I don't know.
George said something that I really like. He said that you can't build what you don't understand,
Yeah.
and I think that's a perfect, like, relevant comment to the AI part of this. Like, yeah, you can get started, but like, as soon as you don't understand what it's doing or you don't understand what you're building, all the AI in the world becomes useless. It's not going to help you if you don't understand what you're building in the business context and in the technical
Hmm.
context that you're trying to build in. So
Yeah, in
like,
that intermediate area where like right now AI is like helpful and it builds some crap and it's not going to be that useful in bubble yet, like that we're at the beginning of it. Eventually maybe you snap your fingers and you have the whole thing that you need, right? But like in that intermediate time, you still need people who know how to use bubble and who know how to or code or whatever, right? And if you rely on AI so much, you're going to not learn that stuff deeply. And so I think that it's going to, I don't know, I think it might cause just as many problems if it's used incorrectly. It can cause just as many problems as it solves.
if it's used incorrectly, see, and that's really important. Like, if you're using it to further your learning, using it as a vehicle to teach yourself,
Yeah.
like what fundamentally what you're doing, that's a responsible way to use AI to build software,
Hmm.
right? Like, explain why these two fields need to be related in these two tables in order for me to accomplish this. That's a
Hmm.
smart question. If you're just saying build me a database
Build
for
me a
Uber,
thing.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's lazy. Like, that's not much thought is going into that. Like, you still have to be like putting some mental effort into
Hmm.
what you're doing in the in whatever LLM you're talking to. I wanted to
Yeah.
see Luis's comment here. I learned Bubble through course. For me, courses are for beginners mostly, and as I once was, nowadays I use tutorials for them, ask others for most stuff. I'm always learning something new, so I'm always into the courses. But as I said, as a beginner,
Yeah.
yeah, beginner.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
the
the
courses should be on it would be like near the top of the how to become a beginner grid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, do we think that more projects here? What's up, Violet? Do we think that more projects belongs in the overrated still?
Mm, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on how good you are with all the rest of it. Like if you have business context because you had that background or something, you have great communication skills and you really know what you're doing and you know technically how to build, then like having more projects I think is like not that important. But I think if you don't naturally have those things, and you don't have that experience or background, then doing more projects likely, unless you're just like totally checked out in those projects, will will move you up the chain, I think. So I think it's an it depends tile, but I'm happy for it to be where you feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, overrated. Do you see it as the same level as courses? I think that's what I'm trying to decide for
Mm,
myself.
yeah,
Is
kind of.
more does more projects help you get to senior in the same at this with the same impact that courses do?
Here's what
I
I
think
think.
kind
Here's what
of.
I
I
think.
think they kind of do.
You think they kind of
Yeah.
do?
I
Well,
think they're at the same level. I think where we
okay.
started them is where I want to leave it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that courses, more projects, and AI can trick people into thinking they are becoming a better developer.
Oh shit. Yeah, I love that. Can we drop this one
Yeah,
down?
man. Yeah, that's where you belong.
Okay.
Yeah. The other things, if you focus on communication, business context, mentorship, peer to peer, I think there's no question that you will move. You might never ever, get to be a totally senior developer, but it's going to improve your everything. All these other things, AI, more projects, courses, I think you could do 1,000 of those and still not become a senior developer. You have
Oh
to
my
have the other
God.
things.
I love the way that you just said that, and it like literally just clicked as soon as you said it. Yes, these three can trick you into thinking you're learning when
Mhm.
you're not, if used irresponsibly, right?
Or if that's all you're
Uh,
doing, yeah, yeah.
oh, Kelly, well done. All right. Let's talk about some of these other ones. Let's talk about there's only two left that we have.
Mm.
And I'm curious to see what else is there.
Deep dive in one
Deep
area. Is this technical? What do you mean?
technical deep dive, yes, a
Mm.
technical deep dive in one area. Like I think we've talked about this before, where it's like people tend to gravitate towards it. Tech is very broad. Development is very broad. Software is very broad. People tend to gravitate towards an area that either interests them or they're just naturally good at. Design, integrations, security.
Mm.
Um, I don't know what else. There's a million other. But where is it? And as people that consider themselves senior, they usually will deep dive into one of these areas and be very knowledgeable about a single area of development or two. And that is further, I think, incentivized by companies who will call somebody senior because they have this specific
Mm.
skill set within tech. So like how much, I guess the question around it on this tile in particular is like how much does expertise in one area elevate you towards senior?
Yeah, I almost think senior developers maybe have more of a broad kind of understanding of many things. I mean, the T shape is what you want, right? Like that ideally you have, but you have that top bar where everything, and the T being like a deep dive here, you've got really strong set of skills in one area, and then you have a broad understanding of everything, right? If you've never heard of that. But as a senior developer, I'm thinking you need to be pretty good at all of it, and knowing when so many things here. Like you need to know when to outsource something. So like you need to know I'm not great at that like design, for example, right? I'm shit at design. We have to outsource that part of it, or we need to bring someone else in or whatever, right? So you need to know where you don't have the T. Definitely don't have the T. But having the T, I'm not sure. I don't know if that you have to have some kind of like specialty to become a senior developer. I think that like that helps to market you. Like it's really helpful to market you, or to market yourself and get clients. But I'm not sure that it is. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, okay, so I think what I'm hearing from you is that you would prioritize a general knowledge across many areas, being medium at like all of the areas over being really good or really experienced in one, which I
I think
think
so.
I think I agree with. I think the problem is that people just do it, right? They're like you have to get medium at everything. And you have to
Yeah,
have a
at
little bit of
least. Yeah.
design. You have to get medium at all of these things.
Hmm.
And that's probably a precursor to even deep diving in one single area is
Hmm.
like you have to even know in the first place what the areas are before you know,
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I'm going all in on this. So like, I think it's almost a signal of
Mm.
being senior. You know, it's almost like an indicator because they've tried all of these things. They've decided, and I think it takes a certain amount of humility to say what what you're saying, and like, I'm not good at this. I don't care about this.
Mhm.
Someone else can deal with this part. Like, and then just kind of focus on that area that you really want to live in. There's something mature about
Mhm.
thinking that way. Um, but I do think this is like, if someone is going, even if they don't say that they are, but if someone is just going all in or is very like focused in one area, and we all know, like we as the community, I'm like, oh man, I don't, I can't come up with a pretty design for this. Kelly, can you just help me with this? I don't want to deal with this. Or John, I don't want to deal with this stripe shit. Can you do this integration for me? And like, people just kind of know that about you,
Mhm.
and like that to me is a good indicator. So
Mm.
I'm gonna,
I think some deep dives are gonna be more useful than others. Like, if your deep dive is, um well, I can't even think of one right now, but, like, is something that's, like, not used on every project, or is not like, you know what I mean? Then, like, great, and right? Like, none of my projects have to do with AI, so having a deep dive on AI, not that useful for me. Now, you know, like, I would take different projects if I had that expertise, right? But I do think some areas are, like, for example, data modeling. If you are really skilled at that, like, that's a crucial part, technical skill, of being a really good developer. And, having a strong background in that, a really deep interest in it, like, that can set your project up to, you know, at least technically succeed, right? If you don't have it, you can fail. So that is every project, and it's super important, and it's a baseline thing. I think design is a similar thing, because not just because of making stuff pretty, but like, how you think as a designer is how you need to think as a developer. It's like taking in stuff, synthesizing it, and then producing something out of it. That process, I think, has been like so helpful for me as a developer, having a design background, because of that mode of thinking, right? So I think a deep dive in a critical area is really important, or can be super useful. But I don't know. I think more a senior developer would need to be very good at almost all the things that are crucial for the project, and then the ability to say, I'm not good at that, and I'm going to outsource it.
yeah. The Oh man, I lost the thought. You said something that triggered something else, but I forget now.
I talk too long. Sorry.
We'll come back.
Okay.
Deep dive shows capacity. I think this is the important thing
Mm.
here. It's
Hmm.
the interest in learning. That to me is you're not doing this for because it's your job and you're required to. Like, you have to have a super deep understanding in any one area. You're doing it because you want to, and
Hmm.
I think that really does set apart a good from a poor developer. Is like, it's a curiosity. There's a certain curiosity that needs to be present in the way that you think in order for you to be good at this. If you're just like, I don't know, I've seen two different ways of doing, and I've seen in myself too. Like, I'm going to use myself as the example. There's certain projects or certain problems about a project that I was just so not interested in, and like, for me, it's like the outcome. Like, why are we digging so deep on this? And like, that will make it interesting or not for me. But like, the interest in learning more is, I think, does distinguish a senior, somebody that's senior.
Hmm.
There has to be a real interest, just for the sake of like problem solving or something,
Yeah.
like, not because it gets you anything, just because you're interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing to say. I think that's well said.
There we go. John, plus John, doing it because it's cool rather than just because you want to get paid for it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Um, Interesting. So, all right, maybe deep dive in one area is the wrong name for this. Maybe it's like a natural curiosity or something, but we'll,
Mhm.
I gotta redo these anyway. So where do we land on this, Kelly? Do we want to put it as kinda important? I think it deserves at least to be important.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
important feels good to me.
maybe under this because we're ranking vertically and sideways. I think maybe
Oh, are
behind
we? Oh, I
mentors.
didn't realize that.
Oh yeah. These
I
can be
think it's
like
on the right to me. Or it,
all the way all the way
I
to the
think
right.
that peer to peer is the most important thing here in my
Ah,
mind.
peer to peer
Yeah.
over mentorship. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's the last
What's
one that we
this
have
one?
here?
Problem.
Problem solving.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
We haven't even talked about this. I mean, we have kind of, but like
I mean, all
not focused
problem
on it.
solving, right? But I think that there's a couple things. Is problem solving like actually trying to solve the problem? Like instead of just going like, well, I tried and I failed. Like follow through finishing, right? Or is it the ability to think about problems and kind of break them down, think through solutions? What were you thinking when you put this
I think it's much more concrete. I think it's like you're able to solve not only your problems but other people's problems, anticipate problems that are going to come up in the way that
in?
you built it. Like all of that to me falls under problem solving,
Mm-hmm.
and like I just don't see.
I
Wow,
think
like
that's
I'd
the
have
whole
a
job.
hard.
That's the whole job. So I think that's super
Yeah,
important for a senior developer, but like how do you learn it? How do you learn to do that?
I think is first. I think there's two things here. There is a natural ability or a natural inclination to solve problems. I think there is. This is one of those few areas where it's like if you don't like doing this and you don't feel like you're good at it, you may be better at it than you think, but you don't feel like you're good at it, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle. This is one of those things where I think like you have to naturally do this or naturally want to do this. Um, and then the other thing is to like hands-on practice. This is where I think like more
Mhm.
projects would make you a better problem solver because you're approaching different problems or maybe problems that are related and you kind of start seeing the parallels between them and they become familiar. But like I think more projects helps with problem solving and a natural inclination towards problem solving may have gotten you into the development space in the first place. Um,
Mhm. I think like if I've always thought of myself as kind of a pessimist and which is not really true. I'm pretty optimistic, but in my work, I have always been the person I might have told you this before. Like I've just always been the person in the meeting going like, "Well, yeah, but how are we going to execute that?" Or like, "Here's the problems with that," and everyone just hated me because
yeah.
it's very annoying. But it's made me a good developer because I'm going to anticipate the problems that what I'm doing is going to cause, or the problems that their one of their key features is going to cause. And that doesn't mean then we shouldn't do it. It means like then how do we solve the problem? Like if we're going to create that problem, we need to solve it. And so I think that's a natural inclination for me. So yay me. But also like I think you can put yourself in that mindset. You can turn that on and go like always asking yourself like what problems does this cause? What problems do I need to solve here? Instead of just like going like la, 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 I'm just building, like so I think you can learn I think learning to do that is a practice, a muscle kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Um, there's like a patience thing there too.
Mm.
Of like, yeah, I think the most frustrating thing for when I get stuck on a problem is like I didn't think this was going to be this
Ah,
hard of a problem,
yeah.
and then you're like, damn, I didn't think I was spending all that much time, and you get frustrated, and that's when you kind of you're not using your problem solving skills because you didn't think you'd have to. You're just kind of guessing sometimes,
Mhm.
and that is that's when like I've learned that like you need to stop. You need to stop now. You're not doing anything useful. You need to like sleep on this, appreciate that this is a problem that you are going to have to put some effort into and then come back to it later. Sleep on it or just like,
Mhm.
come back in a few hours.
And
Um,
possibly communicate that to the client also if you depending. I don't think you should communicate every problem. to the client. But if it's going to alter the timeline or, the functionality of the app, like, then you also have to deal with that aspect of it.
It's true because I think a lot of times that's where the pressure is coming from, right?
Mm.
If I have a month to solve this problem, I don't feel like I have to solve it today.
Yeah.
Whereas if I told the customer or your team that I was going to deliver this by the end of this week, and now this problem is a lot more complicated than I had anticipated, then I'm feeling rushed and frustrated and kind of
Mhm.
anxious about getting this done. So yeah, there's definitely I think that's where like the mental spiral starts to come from is like, when does this need to get done?
Yeah, I think that's right. I have a question for you. So I think a lot about how most uh, most developers I've known don't want to work on existing apps, right? That's a really common thing in Bubble. Um, there's not that many developers who will do that or who like it. They're like, just give me like a fresh new build, right? Which makes sense. But I like working on existing apps and refactoring and all that kind of stuff. And I realized it's because I like puzzles. I want to figure out the puzzle, right? And when I realized that, I was like, oh, that feels like an essential part of this job for like anyone, because every problem is a puzzle, you know. Um, and so I don't know if you can be a senior developer without that muscle of like, this is a messy thing. How am I going to figure it out? Like if you are expecting the project to be clean, then you're not going to be good at this job.
Mm. Wait, was there a question there?
No, there
I,
wasn't,
I thought
but
that
there
you
was
I
in
thought
my
you said
mind
you had a
initially.
question
I
for me.
did. I did. I guess the
Okay.
question is like, are you like a puzzles guy? Do you like puzzles?
I fucking hate puzzles. I will never
I
do a puzzle that I don't have to.
don't mean a puzzle like a physical where you put the pieces in. I mean like,
Or like a word search or something like that. Or
no, no, no,
like,
no. Like, oh my God. When I was in elementary school, we did like logic problems. I was in like a nerd program. And so they would give us these like logic problems where it's like, I don't know, there's like 6 baseball players and they all need a jersey and their mom brought a snack. And then you have this like grid thing that they're called logic problems. They give you a list of clues and then you have to like put things in a place based on the logic of that thing. Right.
okay.
Anyway,
Is that so? There's a lot. Okay, you're touching on something interesting. There's a lot of like indicators of like going into development. I think we
mm,
decided that like being like an interest in music and music theory
mhm,
is one of them. I
mhm.
realized that I have none of these qualities as you guys were talking about them, like zero, like none of them. Like I'm not interested in any of that stuff. So it was like it was fun, but there was so many people that were like,
Mm.
oh yeah, it's so like almost like it wasn't even a question,
Yeah. Everyone in the
like
room was a musician in some way.
yeah,
It
and
was
I was like,
wild.
wow, I really
Yeah.
don't belong here. This is hilarious. But I think there's a lot of those like precursors, like to maybe like I
Mhm,
may want to sidestep into this area of work,
mhm.
where that like that would be an interesting thing
Yeah.
to like hammer out. Like I like the standardized tests always get me. Like I don't think that there's a lot of those are very helpful, but like if you have an interest or you find yourself gravitating towards these areas, consider a career in
Mhm.
in technical work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly didn't go, oh, bubble development. I think I'll be good at that because I like puzzles and was a musician, right? Not at all. Like I found it and then I started working in it and it felt like locked in. It felt right. It had all of the parts of my personality kind of were like, oh, okay, this works for this, right? So like, I don't think you don't belong here. You're just like an outlier. I think there's commonalities among lots of people who also the type of person who is driven to go to a retreat like we went to. And, I think that probably also is it. There's some, I don't know, bias built in there. I don't
I
know.
think I I think the most attractive thing about the technical side of things, is that there's a right answer
Mm-hmm.
in how to
Mm-hmm.
build something. It's completely stripping away the conversation around product, right? Forget about product.
Yeah.
There's no right answer in product. It's always going to change. Your customers are going to change. That's people stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
like there is a right answer to a dev problem
Mm-hmm.
in this context, and like that's I think the big thing that drives me towards this is like, ooh, I want to figure that out. I want to figure that
Yeah.
out. Which approaches like a puzzle. It's like a mystery to solve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
because it's binary in that there's a it's not necessarily that there's a right way to do it. It's that like it's done or it's not done. It's
yes,
binary in that way,
yes.
right?
It's very black and white. It's one of the
How you get
few,
there.
I think, yeah, it's one of the few like jobs where it's so black and white. It's
Yeah.
like this is the right, like this is the thing that is supposed to happen. And I think that's like what keeps me here.
Hmm.
Um,
It's cool
and
because
it's
it
also
has
like,
both. It has the nuance in between how you get from it's not working to it's working. You can be
mhm,
creative in that, right? I think this job is
yep,
incredibly creative. But you're right. There is a done and there's a not done. And if you're still in the not done category, then like you're not done. You
yeah,
can't
you're not
just
done.
hand it off yet.
Yeah, and you can't like explain away why this is done. Like
Mm-hmm.
no, there it has to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's like an intellectual vanity type thing too. It's also like, am I smart enough to figure this out? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, will this stump me? Is this going to? And that's where I think like I guess that's what I mean when I say like curiosity and like doing it kind of for a reason other than I'm getting paid for this will
Hmm.
make you better.
Yeah.
It'll make you go deeper above and beyond what the specs were, like that'll make it interesting.
Yeah, I think, and that's something that we didn't really talk about in terms of like what makes a senior developer is I think that they enjoy it. They enjoy building and they enjoy the process and they enjoy the communication. They actually enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, I don't know. I like, obviously not every aspect you're not going to enjoy, but like for the most part, if you don't like doing this kind of work, I don't think you, I don't know, you're not going to be great at it. It's too
You I don't
personality
even think
driven.
you can be medium at it if you don't like you can't like it dude, it's not you can't half-ass this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't half-ass math. Like it's impossible. You're just not going to get very far, I guess. I think those are like I've been here too where it's like the people that will join a bubble boot camp or any kind of technical boot camp and like they're in it for because they have an app idea and they want to make money. Those are the people that don't make it past the first few days. Like
Mm,
after 3 sessions they're like you don't see them again because
yeah.
like you're kind of there for the wrong reason. You're there because you think this is going to be like an easy uh an easy thing to do, and you
Mm,
believe the low code marketing of like, hey, build an app 10x faster than you can on with it's
yeah.
not even
Yeah.
relevant anymore because AI has like made that completely
Right.
like the old thing. But yeah.
I would love like a poll of developers, like see what we would think of as the senior Bubble developers, to see like what drew them to Bubble. Was it the promise of like what drew them, and what in that first 24 hours of using it made them do another 24 hours, right?
Mm.
Because for me, like I don't even remember any marketing that was like build your app fast. I remember none of that. I don't know what I saw, right? But it was just fun. Once I like opened it up, I was like, this is a blast, right? And so I think that like that just kept me going because it was so fun and it continues to be fun. But it was free, Ranjit. It was free. Okay, George. Um, I was drawn to, but Ranjit, hold on. But
Oh, sorry.
Ranjit, it was free, but like still, were you looking for it? Were like a lot of things are free,
Yeah.
like Spotify is free. Why not become a musician? I don't know. Like, yeah, there's something before that. George says, I was drawn to Bubble because I enjoy logic and making things work rather than syntax, and Bubble takes away syntax. Yeah. 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 That's interesting because, like, I feel like Bubble does make it more of a thinking platform rather than a knowing platform. And it just removes the need to have the knowing and I'm talking
Interesting.
about syntax.
Yeah, specifically syntax,
Yeah.
right? Like Mm,
Yeah, it
take
allows you
away
to
the
solve the
syntax.
problems.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. What are we at, Kelly? We're
1
at,
minute till.
yeah, we're like right on the money.
Mm.
I don't know that. I think maybe, well, let's see what Ranji says here. I wanted to build an app. Everything else costed a lot. I was a student, cared about it,
Mm.
and it got the job done. All right, dude, whatever. Like, if that's what got you there, I think what Kelly's saying that it's like, it's not just, we're not talking about bubble. We're talking about like dev in general, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
even drew you to this in the first place? Because I think the answer to that will determine how far you go. Whether you
Mhm.
turn this into a career, whether you turn into a freelancer, or you try it for 2 days, and then you're like, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Like the reason you're there is important.
You know what's funny is
Um,
I started out in college as a computer science major. I forget about this all the time, and I spent like 1 day doing it, and I was like, I'm going to change my major to music. But I did take a web design class, and it was like early, this was like 97, right? 97. So this is early internet stuff. And it was all coding and, hello world kind of thing. And I remember getting like, there was a design portion of it and I was like, love it. And then there was the, okay, let's put that thing on the internet now. And I mean, I think I dropped out the second day where I was like, what are we doing? Carrots and like, oh, I hated it so much. I just dropped the
oh,
class.
as soon as it went into like
As
HTML and
soon.
stuff, you were
Yes,
like, I'm out. Okay.
I am out. This sucks. I hate it. Yeah, it's so funny. Uh, Louise says building stuff hits different. The fast feedback, that to me is like a drug, or was in the beginning. Is so fun to see what you've built and see. That's why, like, I love coaching so much because you can like whip something up basic that's really fast, and you just like they're amazed. They think you're brilliant. It's great.
What does that mean? Like the cost, like how the users interact with what you're building, or like how a
No,
customer
No,
reacts to
well, I'm not sure if this is what Luis means, but for me, it's the feedback of the platform, like previewing the app and seeing that what I have built works or doesn't work. Like literally, you build something, you click preview, and then you can see it. That's the
Oh,
feedback. The platform is giving you feedback about what you built.
oh, okay. I think you nailed it because Luis just said yes.
Yeah,
Okay, I did not interpret it that way. Interesting. Guess we have to
I think
see
that's like a
the
phrase that
previewer.
people kind of. It's one of those phrases that people feedback as like a. I don't know. I can't. I don't know the
We
context.
know it's good. We
Yeah,
know it's
yeah,
good,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we're probably talking about different things when we say it,
Well, yeah,
right?
because you think about feedback as like from another person, right? But
Yeah,
it really can be also from the tool you're using. Like if you get an error message, that's feedback, and you have to fix it. You know, if
yeah,
the thing
yeah.
doesn't work, that's feedback that you didn't do it right. So
Definitely helps.
yeah, yeah,
All right, you want to call it here, Kelly?
calling it,
We'll pick
calling
up.
it.
We'll call it here. We're gonna pick up next week on I think a different topic, but I
Yeah.
think it's very interesting. What you want to call that out now, or you want to just talk about it
Um,
next week?
I think we were talking about. Was that scoping? Oh, it was
No.
something that George was talking about, agency stuff. Okay, yeah, George had this great tweet about um, how owning an agency is. Well, we'll talk about it next time. But it's
All right.
George, you got to come so you can chime in, and we're talking about agency stuff. So if you've ever thought of building an agency, I would say this would be a fun one to.
Or gone from freelancer. Like I feel like when I was freelancing, like the track is like, oh, one day I will run an agency.
Mm-hmm,
It doesn't
mm-hmm.
have to be that. It's just like
Nope.
what was in my head when I started, because that feels like the next level.
I didn't
Um,
know that you were thinking. Oh my god, I can't wait to have this conversation.
yeah. There's a lot to say about this. I can't wait to tell you, and why that completely broke down,
Yeah.
and why I never want to freelance again, because like that whole thing blew up in my face in a way that's like I want to be able to explain that. So
Ah,
that'll be fun. That's gonna be fun.
drama. Okay, can't wait.
All right,
All
next
right.
week.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.